Hello.
What's up?
I'm calling you from outside. Is there background noise that's too loud, or is it okay?
Just a little bit, but it's okay. It's not very loud.
Cool. I am hoping to smoke.
You have a 16-year Scotch?
Yeah, it's my favorite Scotch, dude.
Dang.
Like, all-time favorite. And this table is a little lonely. With just the one of us.
Should I move back to Morris?
I don't know if you want to listen to my advice on that. Because I would say yes.
There's a job opening right now at the U of M.
Oh, yeah?
For the director of communications.
Oh, wow.
Which used to be my boss, but she quit, and then they had an interim guy, but just on an interim basis, obviously.
So you can take that job remotely for another... How many months have you been in Ecuador now?
So I was looking at the calendar today. I've been here 72 days.
Okay. 72 days.
Yeah.
Do you feel like things are maybe getting a bit more of a pattern and more normal now? After that time, or?
More of a pattern, yeah. I wouldn't say I'm quite settled in yet. Because I still don't totally know what I'm going to do.
Right.
So right now I have 2 freelance gigs.
Okay.
But it's not a ton of work. Probably writing a couple blog posts for each one a week. So it's enough to help pay some bills and stuff, but it's not really
right. Not enough to go buy a bottle of tequila and party.
Right. And it's actually been pretty hard for me to transition to remote stuff. I don't know.
Just staying motivated?
Well, I'm kind of lonely.
Right.
I'm realizing okay, even if I get a remote, man, I'm being really honest on this podcast right now.
Hey, that's good.
I would love to get a remote job that was steady and stuff. At the same time, when you're just sitting at your kitchen table and working, my wife is gone all day, and obviously I'm making some friends, but you only hang out with friends in the evenings because everyone has jobs.
Right.
I don't know. I'm a people person, and I'm realizing that more and more since I moved here, and I've spent a lot of time by myself.
Right. Yeah, dude.
So in the States, I don't know, when you have a full-time job and friends and family and stuff, alone time is super nice because you're I got a few hours to get stuff done or read or something.
Yep.
But when it's super available, you're okay. I spent the majority of my days alone for that last month and a half.
Right.
It starts to get a little wearing.
Yeah. See, right now, something like that sounds fantastic to me.
I bet.
I think after a couple weeks, I would start to go crazy,
Right. Yeah.
It sounds really nice until you're doing it, and then you're really bored and stir crazy.
Yeah, it is nice. I think, yeah, being alone, last summer, Kaylee went to Peru for 2.5 months.
Yep.
And having alone time and being by yourself, to me, it's it's fun for a month, maybe 5 weeks, and then it gets old.
Yeah.
You kind of run out of things to do.
Time.
Yeah, I bet. And you got a kid.
Yeah, I will never have alone time again.
Someday. Someday.
Yeah, it was this weekend actually that Haley had a wedding, and it was like Gabe was out of town, my younger brother was gone, John Franey was working, and then you're in Ecuador, and I was like, it's Saturday and I want to do something, and I literally have no one to hang out with.
Right.
So I was kind of bumming. I don't know what has changed, but I feel like I'm more of an extrovert than I ever have been right now.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just like more, like I want more relationship and more like adventures and hangs, and I live in Morris.
Yeah, man. I can have some sympathy for that.
Right. But it's good. I don't know if it's also just a piece of that, like, I've been a bit of a workaholic, and I'm kind of coming on the other side of that to where now I'm like a little less motivated, and I'm like, okay, I've been super focused for months, and it's been winter, and I've just like worked, and now I kind of want to do something really exciting and adventurous and not work as much.
Yeah. There's a monotony to work that, like one of the reasons I like school so much was because of you have like semesters and you have seasons.
Yeah.
And it starts and it stops and there's like a pace to it.
Right.
And sometimes an office job is just like, yep, it's this forever unless you quit.
Right.
And you're like, oh, okay.
It would be so sweet to be a teacher or something where you have the summer months. Like, obviously, there's some work that they have to do, but in general, it's like you have 3 months off.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the thing that would be hard about that is I think it's pretty tiring dealing with students all day.
Right.
I think it's just knowing the teachers I know, it's a pretty like intense, you kind of just want to crash when you come home.
Right. So the emotionally exhausting side of it might not warrant the 3 months off.
But there's more days off than that too, because they get a lot of holidays off. They get different weekends and Christmases, and it's definitely a lot more.
Yeah.
Unless you got like, there's some jobs where you get, you could probably get a job where it's like you automatically get 3 weeks off. You don't have to, build it up or anything.
Yeah.
But not superior, but.
Well, I think like if you come into it with experience or like, I think part of the thing.
Oh yeah. You can negotiate for that, yeah.
Yeah, or even if you don't have experience, you probably still can negotiate for that. I just never even realized that was a thing, Part of that is just naivety of coming into the workforce, and you're like, oh yeah, if you'll give me a job, I'll work. And not understanding that you can be like, but I also need 2 weeks off so that I can go on vacation this summer. And they're like, yeah, here you go.
Right. When you're like 21, 22 and someone like offers you a job, like, sweet, I'm not going to be poor.
Right. Like that's all the farther I thought about it. Like, oh yeah, you're okay. Yep. You're paying me money, giving me a job. I'll do it.
I was like, this is the only job, like this is the only open position for this title in Morris.
Yeah.
I can't be like, I'm going across town to this place. Like,
right.
What? No, you're not. Oh man, I missed the old marketing crew back in Motown.
Yeah.
I miss our 9 o'clock and our 3 o'clock breaks.
Oh yeah. I get to see them fairly often.
Yeah. Oh man.
So you posted your reading list. That's like Have you been just keeping track of every book that you've read for the last 3-4 years, or did you go back and like figure out everything and kind of make the list?
So my senior year in college, which was 2014, 2015, I got rid of a bunch of books, some that I had read and didn't want anymore, and then some that I had bought but never read. I had accumulated a lot of books over college that I never got around to reading.
Yeah.
And I just determined to own books that I had read.
Oh,
and
right.
So that controlled my spending on books because I like to buy books. So it made me consider a lot more whether or not I wanted to buy a book because I was going to commit to actually reading it or selling it again and stuff.
Yep.
So I've been and then last summer I sat down and all I had to do was just go through basically my library because I only owned books that I had read and just figure out what year I read them in.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I made the list, and then I didn't really publish it or anything, and then lately I was like, oh, I got to go back and change, like I got to add the authors and stuff. It wasn't complete.
Yep.
And then, put it up on my website. So if you go to danielchain.com and you go to the bottom fold or like the footer, it's on the bottom right-hand side. And it's all the books I've read from 2014 to the present.
How many books is that all in total? I didn't count, but it's a lot.
Yeah, so I kind of felt bad because when we did the podcast with Bobby, I told him I read like 20 books a year.
Yeah.
I don't think I quite read 21, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So last year I read 19. But like 2016 I read like 12. In 2015 I read like 30.
Yeah, that was the year that I was like, holy cow.
2012 and then 30 and then like 10 in 2014. So I had a really good year in 2015.
Yeah, dude. That was the year after you graduated? Was that when you went to Bethel and everything?
Yeah, so that spring I graduated and then I went to Reading. And when I lived in Reading, I just I had a part-time job and an internship.
Okay.
And so I read,
right.
And I didn't have part-time job and internship in grad school. So I just read a ton that summer. And looking back, I was hardcore into theology books.
Yeah, it was funny. I was looking through that and it was like all of the books from that year were theology stuff.
Yeah, dude. Whoa.
So
I did too much thinking that year. That's why I kind of quit the.
Right. You burned yourself out.
I did. I burned myself out and I was like, no more theology books. Then I read a couple more in 2016 and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Then I was hardcore into marketing books and now I'm like, I got to read some stories. So I'm trying to get some novels and rest my brain.
I can't handle novels. They're just too. I don't know. Maybe I need to change my perspective on reading, but I tend to think of it as like, well, if I'm not like reading is an investment in like learning new things and challenging myself versus like enjoyment.
Yeah, I definitely used to have that perspective.
Right.
But if you get a book list and you keep track of it and you show it off to people, then even if you read a novel, you can put it on your list. And they're easier to read, so you can get more books on your list.
Yeah, so I just looked and I've read 11 books so far this year. And
nice.
I've read 9 books from September through December last year.
Wow.
So I think I'm on track to probably hit 25.
Yeah. That's so much. Most people don't read.
Right.
Like, they say like CEOs read like 50 books a year or whatever. Even if you read 25, you're so much farther ahead than the average person.
Right.
And if those are nonfiction, you're really gathering a lot of information and ideas.
Yeah. So I've started a non-public blog. So to define that, a blog that I'm not like posting all over social media and stuff, you know? So
It
like
is, you can reach it though.
yeah, you could find it, but I guess so basically the reason that I started to do that was because like in doing this whole Enneagram that we talked about a couple episodes back and everything, like I've realized that I'm super driven by trying to do things to get people's approval. And so if I was to write a blog that I like, it's more of like a challenge for me to do something for my own, like my own processing and growth, and not just trying to do something that everyone will approve of and say good things about and whatnot.
Right. So without something where that you're going to do without the external validation.
Right. So like just knowing for me personally, like if I was like, I could try and write a blog and I would really polish and like make sure that what I'm saying was the right stuff, like vulnerable, but also just the right to get people to comment and be like, wow, this is so deep or thought provoking or whatever, which hopefully these blog posts are still, but it's completely outside of that realm. So I'm not even trying, like I'm just forcing myself to process and put my thoughts and words out there without any expectation or like hope of people validating it, I guess.
Right. Is it just have one post?
Two.
Oh, I only see one.
Oh, maybe the one I was writing the other night might not be public or something, but the other.
Oh wait, no, I found it.
Okay, so I brought that up because what I've been thinking about doing is with the audiobooks. I feel like I always get like one or two really good things out of them, but then I don't take enough time to like process and then like write down my thoughts. So I think I might also start blogging like with each book that I go through. Just like put down a few thoughts here and there, and then once I'm done with it, try and do kind of a summary of what I got out of it, so that then I'm processing through it just to have a better grasp on it. But also, if in 6 months I could go back and kind of read through that and be like, oh yeah, that's what that was about.
Yeah. You know Tim Ferriss?
I don't think so.
4-Hour Workweek. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, he's got a big podcast and stuff. He's like a super like self-optimization, but anyways, like self-improvement.
Yeah.
But he takes like tons of notes. Like he says notebook upon notebook upon notebook. And even like the books that he's published like, I don't know, 5 or 6 New York Times bestsellers.
Okay.
But they're essentially kind of like notebooks.
Sure.
Just of reference. And that's just kind of what you're saying reminded me of that. Something to reference back. Oh, I read this book. I had this experience. I went on this diet.
Right.
And this is exactly what happened. And I can reference it 6 years from now.
Right. That's kind of what I'm thinking, even just with that blog, because it's more like just to put my thoughts and where I'm at, what I'm processing, and then even more for myself to be able to come back and like either read those things and be like, hey, that's awesome. I forgot the place I was in and I've come a long way, or to be like, oh wow, yeah, I forgot that was important and it probably still should be. And so I don't know. I think it'll be good. I think I've, like with everything that's happened in my life in the last 2 or 3 years, I've just like lost a good grasp of like truly being in touch with like what I'm feeling and what I'm thinking and being able to verbalize that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping it'll be good.
Yeah, I'll read them even though you won't share
I mean, if anyone wants to go find it, I'm sure it's pretty easy. But
them. I got to it I got to it through a different link on the second page of, it might be a little hard, second page of Google.
oh
And
sure.
it wasn't a direct link. It was like your name on somebody else's thing that I blah blah blah. But
So are you guys going to any churches or anything like that down there, or just?
we went to a church a couple times, and they also have a young adults group kind of. And
Okay.
we went to that a couple times. It's the I don't know the name of the church, but it's basically like filled with like a bunch of people from Kaylee's school.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's just it was fine. It was, I mean, I didn't understand what the sermons were because it was in Spanish. Oh,
Yeah.
that was a little boring for me.
Right.
But there's a little bit of awkwardness when you work at like a Christian school and then you go to church and
Right.
people who are like like one of the head administrators is the pastor and he's like, "Oh, cool that you came." And you know, sometimes that can be a little bit weird.
Oh yeah.
I think balancing professional and private life or professional and faith with
Right.
So, I mean, we might go back, but we might
Not.
go like every Sunday, or I don't know what we're.
Right. Yeah, that would be a bit of an awkward. I mean, like, not necessarily bad, but kind of weird to have most of your coworkers and stuff all be like what make up the church.
Right. People you spend every day, Monday through Friday with, and then you show up on Sunday, and yeah. And then there's the thing about like if you're going to a Bible study or something, you're like be honest, or I don't know. There's
Right. Yeah, the whole.
And that's kind of how the school. Yeah, it's pretty like relational. Like a lot of people, you know, it's kind of its own community and stuff. But I started playing basketball with a group of people. One of Kaylee's coworkers' husbands.
Okay.
And it turned out like the guy who runs the school, not the founder, but basically like the CEO, he also plays basketball.
Oh yeah.
So he was like, "Send me your resume." So I sent him my resume. So I might work at the school here. We'll see.
How's the
Looking for me.
the teaching niños going?
I just have one student, but he's got a big test coming up to get into school, and so I'm doing like 3 2-hour sessions a week with him. It's kind of a lot.
Yeah.
But he's super chill, and it's all in English, so I'm fine. It's kind of hard for him.
Right.
So I'm not a professional teacher or anything by any means. So it's hard for me to assess, like I don't have really like a professional assessment
Right.
of where he's at. It's interesting too because he seems like a really bright kid, and sometimes I think I can mistake his intelligence for him being good at English or understanding. I don't know.
Yeah.
But he's pretty good at telling me when he doesn't understand what I'm saying.
Sure.
And one thing I've really been working on him with is vocabulary, because there's just a number of words he doesn't know.
Sure.
There's a number he does, and there's a number he doesn't. But yeah, it's fun. It's like you're going back to simpler English, and you have to almost re-examine your own language.
Yeah.
And then you realize that there's things that you know so automatically to do that if you're not a native speaker, you don't know what to do.
Sure.
So, for example, like a CH sometimes says ch and sometimes says k.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And if you're not a native speaker, like he just pronounces it ch every time.
Sure.
So I correct him, but I don't actually know the rule. I don't know why you say k sometimes.
Did you
I just
Google
know
it?
I should, so I can tell him tomorrow. But but like ached, it's k. It's not h'd.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So it's things like that that I would never think of in a million years that are like the little things. Another thing is ed. There's 3 ways to say it. You say it id, ts, or d. And
Yeah.
if it's a T or a D before the ed, then you
Yep.
say it like id. And then whether you say ts or d at the end depends on whether the letter before it, when you pronounce it, makes a vibrating noise in your throat or not. Like that's the rule.
Really? Yeah, that's hard to teach.
Right. So you have to really like reverse engineer things that you do normally and think about it in a different way so that you can explain it, so that they pronounce things correctly.
Yeah. I feel like that would take more prep time than you would think it would to like get ready to teach that.
Right. Yeah. There's some prep for sure. But part of it is also just having conversations. So they need to practice English. So I just talk to them for probably 40 minutes of it.
Right.
And then, reading comprehension. So I either pick out a story for him to read, or he has a book from the library that he reads, and then I'll like make up little reading comprehension questions, or we'll work on, writing a paragraph, or I'll do like synonyms and have him do matching.
Yep.
I don't know. It's kind of fun. It's like going back to middle school. But it's pretty fun to make like a connection with somebody from Ecuador.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure he has a lot of like just things about the city and everything that he could teach you culturally. And
yeah, he told me where the dangerous parts are, so I know now where not to go.
Where not to go running.
Right. And you saw that on the Instagram that I was showing him Nacho Libre clips.
Yeah, dude.
He loves them.
That is awesome. You're going to start something in the school.
But he told me his favorite actor is he's an Adam Sandler fan.
Really?
He's like 13, so it's just like that dumb.
Yeah.
It's like the perfect age for just dumb humor.
That's kind of goofy.
And they have they don't enforce any copyright laws here.
Okay.
So there's just stores there's DVD stores, and it's all pirated. But it's not enforced at all. So
interesting.
And there's tons of fake, like sweatshirt, like all the name brand stuff is fake.
Yeah, they just rip everything off, and there's no ramifications for it.
Yeah, they have whole factories where it's just filled with fakes.
That's awesome.
But that's sort of a cultural difference, because if you think about like copyright, there's certain beliefs and values inherent in copyright laws.
Right.
About like the value of art and original creation and stuff.
Oh, yeah. So that's kind of an interesting segue.
Litigation and law and history behind people going to court.
Yeah. So I was having a conversation the other day with Jared Felton, and he was talking about how in Brazil, we were talking about like the core values of Superior. One of those is integrity. he was talking about how in Brazil, integrity is defined kind of differently. Like, basically, integrity means doing the right thing for your family, even if that means like cheating, stealing, being dishonest. Like,
Yeah.
So integrity is more if you're doing what is right for your family, then it's like culturally acceptable, even if it means that you're harming someone else or you're not keeping your word or whatever. And just talking about how interesting it is to try and then teach what integrity is to a culture that has it, like, it's the same word that they use, it's just a completely different definition to it morally.
Right. Yeah, there's different your ultimate allegiance is different.
Right. So
And
do you
this,
think that that's kind of similar to, I mean, like where you're at then?
I really don't know.
Right. I just think of that with
there's
like the copyright and all that. Like, if integrity, kind of means something different, and it's more like, well, whatever we need to do to provide for our families, you just do whatever.
It's also probably that a lot of the things that are copied are from other countries. Like, it's pretty removed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like they're hurting their own people.
Like, if you make a sweatshirt and put Nike on it, I guess Nike's hurting because you can buy a real Nike shirt here as well. But Nike's not from Ecuador.
Right.
I mean, there's a sort of a thing where you're like, what are the laws? Like, what does it... If countries are sovereign, if a nation state is sovereign, do they have to respect Nike internationally? I mean, it's pretty far. Nike's headquarters in Oregon. It's pretty far away.
That's an interesting question.
You're like, we're our own country. If we want to put fake Nike check marks that aren't exactly the same on our sweatshirts,
right.
Well, I don't deal with it. We're Ecuador.
I mean, I guess there's two sides, right? It's like, it's probably not intelligent to do that to a company like Nike, because in general, that would be the type of people, like companies you might want to like have a factory in your town to help the economy. But at the same time, probably doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if people make a little bit more here than what Nike factories pay in Vietnam.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, maybe not a lot more, but it might be.
Oh, I'm sure to make your own Nike rip-off sweater and sell it, you're making a ton more money than you'd be making if you just worked in a Nike factory.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you were talking about that, like being loyal to your family above all, that made me kind of think of, kind of like the mafia and stuff, right?
Right.
And like gangs and stuff that came out of immigrant populations. There's definitely a history of that in the States, of our own law, the powers that be aren't going to protect us, that you owe more, you need to give respect to your family.
Right. Yeah, maybe in some senses that's actually driven by like the government, and if you don't necessarily trust that the government and like the overall group of people or laws that surround you are at least kind of in the best interest for you and your family, then you basically just say, well, we're going to define it for what's best for our family, and, screw the government. But
right, especially if the government is corrupt, then you lose validity in people's eyes. So if you can't get real justice from the government, then
right,
the respect is going to be lost for sure.
Yeah. I mean, the government here is probably pretty corrupt too, but for some reason we still follow them.
Right. Well, it's a pretty powerful government, ours, militarily.
Yeah, there is that.
Pretty dumb. And there is an element of we have a pretty I think we do have a pretty amazing judicial system, as flawed as I'm sure it is. We are a nation of laws and a constitution that's been around for a long time, and
Right.
people referring back to that for 200 plus years
Yeah.
as a standard. It isn't, it is. I'm not saying the U.S. is perfect justice by any means, but
yeah, in general, the Constitution and like the underlying like foundation tends to be pretty focused on doing what is best for the people, not just what's best for the leader. And so,
right.
since there is that
I mean,
foundation,
I'm sure that's up for argument, but
right. Yeah, we haven't. Dan, what are we going to argue about? We have to find something to argue about.
I don't know. Tell me what you believe, Dave.
And then we would just have the same arguments that we always have.
Man, I said way too much. I'm out of practice on this podcasting.
I know. It's the worst.
We're going to have to record a bunch when I'm in Morris.
What are the dates on that so that I can like take the whole week off and never leave your side?
So I will be back in the States from July 25th to August 17th.
Ooh.
But I will be in the cities it's Charlie Kane's wedding on the 29th.
Yep.
I'll be in the cities probably those first 4 to 5 days, visiting Kaylee's family and friends, just like cities friends. And then I'll be in Morris for the 2 weeks after that. So
as long as you keep August 14th open for my birthday.
Perfect. I will be there.
We should go somewhere fun.
It's August 14th your birthday?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Dude, we should go like on a brewery tour somewhere. Like pick the best breweries to go to in Minnesota and take a whole 2 days and just drive to all of them.
That'd be super fun. I should get a job in the States for like 2 weeks. So no, just kidding.
I'll
Make
keep some house chores.
Cash.
I'll keep some house chores and landscaping for you, and then I'll just pay you.
That'd be good. Oh man! Did I tell you about the interview I got here, but couldn't do? So I applied to a travel company, a travel agent, a company that does like Amazon river cruises.
Okay.
Based out of Quito, and I applied. They had like a community manager position, so social media and digital advertising and the whole bit, kind of like what I did at Superior. And so I applied, and they sent me some questions, and the application was in English, and the initial questions were in English. So I thought I was good.
Yeah.
I was stoked. I was like, I'm going to get a job. And then I got the email from HR inviting me to an interview on Friday morning, and it was all in Spanish. I was like, oh no. So I emailed them and I asked, like, do I need to be fluent in Spanish for this position? And they're like, yeah.
Oh no.
So I was like, so close.
Dang it.
Because I think I could have interviewed and got the job. But obviously they said, some of the social media posts, people are going to respond in Spanish, and you're going to have to, you got no Spanish to respond to people on social.
I mean, Google is really good for that, right?
Google's okay, but it doesn't, you can't just take it directly. Because there's something, like with my student, like sometimes we use Google Translate if he doesn't know what to say and I don't know what to say. And some of it makes sense and some of it doesn't. But there's also differences, they might say, maybe Google gives you the Mexican version and they use a different word in Ecuador.
Right, just cultural dialect differences.
Yeah. Which it's pretty like straight up here. It's not like a weird dialect or anything. It's pretty like common Spanish, I guess.
Sure.
But
have you been brushing up on your Salesforce trailhead so that then you can get a Salesforce job?
I haven't.
Dang it, Dan.
I know.
I would hire you as my consultant to give you some little reports and things to build for me.
That'd be like a little scheme. That'd be bad.
And you can have $2 an hour from me directly.
Right. So there's this freelancer site that I go on, and I've gotten a gig off of, and there's some people that post like, we want like a content writer from the Philippines for $3 an hour.
Oh my goodness.
And the worst thing about like applying for things remotely and like freelance stuff is you have to constantly be on the lookout for just scams or stuff that's not legit.
Right.
Because there's tons of legit things and tons of things that aren't.
Right. Yeah, if someone
and it's all online, so it all looks similar.
Don't respond to anything looking for like a male model to come take pictures in swimsuits at someone's house, okay?
Right. I've seen something like, I've seen those.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
But I responded to this one person, they said they needed research papers written.
Okay.
And it kind of ended up being this guy. So like I'm like in yes mode right now, right?
Yeah.
Somebody says like, doesn't matter like what it is. If I don't want to write it or I don't care about that company, I'm just like, yes, I'll do, I'll tutor this kid. I'll write your thing, whatever. Not really being picky. So this person gets back to me about needing research papers done, and I thought it was for maybe like a site that was trying to do like some SEO stuff, so in-depth long-form content or something like that.
Sure.
And it turned out it was probably this kid who needed a paper done for class like by Sunday night.
Oh, geez.
And Kaylee saw it and she was like, I don't think this is legit, Dan. And I was like, oh man, I'm tired of freelance crap.
Yeah.
So I responded to him because he like gave me this whole outline, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. And he was like, okay, but can you do it?
Really?
It was like on the Civil War.
Interesting. How much was he going to pay?
He didn't say, so I mean, that was part of it too. It would have been more tempting if you would have put a price, but I'm also not really into academic dishonesty, so.
Right.
But he created a fake LinkedIn company profile.
How do you know it was fake?
Pretty smart way he did it. Nobody worked there, and there was no website, and there was no profile picture. And this kid was like, "Can you write this paper about the Civil War for me by Sunday night?"
Yeah.
So
that seems a little.
Yeah. But I was applying for a lot of gigs, so I thought, I think I went to his website, but it must have been a different one I applied for right before,
Yeah.
And but I was pretty impressed, to find the freelance site, to create the fake profile, I don't know, I was like, this kid's going places. I also Googled the name he gave me, and I got like an obituary newspaper article.
All right.
He might have taken a dead guy's name.
That is, hey, he probably has a future.
I know. I'm like, this guy's going to do deals somewhere. I don't know what his level of integrity is, but.
Right. So one of the most enjoyable things about sitting here looking at the street and smoking my pipe is seeing all the people who are trying to get out and fulfill their running goals for the summer now that it's nice weather. It's entertaining to watch how people run.
Oh, it's sad.
Uh-huh. And hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Some people have such bad form, it looks like so much work.
Yeah, it does.
It's like there's so much extra movement that you don't need. There's like when you're running, the only movement you need is forward. And people side to side and up and down and horizontal.
Well, and it's funny. So the person who just ran by had like the T-Rex arms. So it's like she had her elbows really close at her side, and then her wrists like completely bent down. It was just like super short arm strokes back and forth. It was good.
When I quit, a couple months before I quit running in college, I was at this like regional meet, and I had just run this race where I had shin splints and was in pain for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And pushed through it. And then I was watching like the girls race finish. And if you just stay like at the finish line of a 6K race and look at people's expressions, like there's nothing sadder. And you're not going that fast.
Yeah.
You know, if you run distance. So it's not flattering either.
Right.
Like even if you run a really good time, by the end of a distance race, you look slow and like in pain and
pure agony and yeah.
Right. Even if you're doing really well, it's not visually appealing in any way.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Unless you're in like phenomenal shape.
Yeah. Yeah, running is definitely not something you do if you want to look good.
Like pictures of people running are the most unflattering thing.
Yeah, unless it's like a Nike commercial and then you have a supermodel who you just put like a little baby oil on and they just took like 2 slow motion steps.
Right.
Yeah. How many miles are you running every day?
Not that much.
Oh, yeah.
I don't run, like, when I go for a run, I run for like 20 to 30 minutes.
Is it harder to run distance like in Quito or just because it's in the middle of a city?
Yeah, so first of all, I have to run slower because there's so much traffic.
Yeah, you're crossing roads and jogging.
And I'm crossing roads, and there's a lot of dogs in the city too.
Yeah.
And I found that they quit chasing me if I just walk past them instead of run.
Yeah.
So yeah, running past the dogs here, they might chase you, but if you walk past, they're pretty chill. So I slow down for dogs and cars and babies and people and
I really want to see video of you like full out jogging and then you hear a dog and you just really quickly turn to this, try to act overly casual, strolling, walking.
Yeah, I definitely do it multiple times.
Yes.
And then there's some runners, but there's not a lot of runners.
Okay.
So people, I don't know, like I almost run into people because they really don't look up whether or not I'm coming. Sure. And they don't move. And it's just kind of like, oh, there's a white person running.
Yeah.
It's a lot more crowded. So yeah, I'm not going quite as fast. And I found that I don't get injured if I just run less.
Sure. Yeah,
and I can still stay in like okay shape, running for 25 minutes.
Yeah.
And it makes me enjoy running and not see it as much of a chore.
Yeah.
If I just go for a quick run.
Yeah, 20 minutes is super doable.
Oh, yeah. And then you throw in the odd 40-minute run or 35-minute run and if you have more time. So, yeah, I kind of have a weird body that way because I ran, like the last marathon I ran, in under an 8-minute pace.
Yeah.
But I probably ran less than 20 miles a week training for it.
Right.
Which is not advisable.
Yeah.
But it was great for me because I was completely uninjured when I showed up for the race.
Right. Yeah, I guess there's that piece of it is when you're doing so much prep and running so much beforehand, you probably are already like either injured or your body's like at breaking point and then you push yourself and then you can't do anything for months after that.
Yeah, I ran like 60 miles a week in college, freshman,
Yeah.
sophomore year, and I just felt broken.
Yeah, that's what Christian's doing right now, and he just injured his knee the other week, and so now he's like, he can't run, so then he has to do like the extra
Pool workout?
bike.
Oh yeah, and I hate exercise bikes.
Yeah, and pool workouts, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not used to injury either because I never really got injured in basketball or soccer or anything I did. And so the slow, boring injury of distance running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I'm trying to get back into it here, so. When I used to run all the time, I just had like a goal of, I would always start out like with 8.5 minute miles, and then my goal was to be able to run 3 miles with 7-minute miles.
Uh-huh.
And then whenever I would finally get to that, then I would kind of like peter out. I'm kind of one of those, I set a really ridiculous goal for myself and I push myself, but then once I get there, then I'm like, okay, I did it. I don't really want to do anything more than that. And then I don't keep it up, but.
Mm-hmm. I think it's really fun in life, like you were talking about the blog earlier, and just writing it for reasons other than some sort of external goal.
Right.
When you can find things that you want to do no matter what the results are.
Yeah.
That's always my favorite thing, like, because you're dedicated enough to be consistent, but you don't have this, you're actually going at it slow enough to enjoy it.
Right. I think I need to work on that a lot in my life because I tend to be far more like, okay, I'm going to push myself. I want to basically get to where I'm above average. And then once I'm above average, I'm like, okay, I did that. Now what's the next thing that I'll try and do, you know?
I think a little bit of both can help because sometimes you can just not push yourself and do the safe thing always.
Right. Yeah, no, I think it's good. I just think that I tend to not, like you're saying, even things that I enjoy, I maybe am a little too focused, and then I take the joy out of it because I'm trying to achieve too much instead of just, like pipe making even. Like, I'm trying to like crank things out versus just, you know what, I'll just work on a pipe for the next month and make something that I enjoy and take the process slow and then not have to like have some type of end goal or big, like something that I'm pushing for. I just need to like learn how to enjoy things and not always be so goal oriented.
Yeah, there's this, I think that it says something about like our culture in the States. We're very optimization focused and efficiency focused.
Yep.
And a constant improvement.
Yep.
Which in some ways is amazing. And you see it in our technology and in our processes. And like the States is really nice. There's a lot of effective communication. There's a lot of speed. And it makes for a good place to live.
Yep.
Especially if you're connected into the right job or the right, whatever economic situation, obviously.
Yep.
But there's also a certain anxiety that comes with it of never really being enough.
Right.
And so it's like, where's the balance of that where you're prioritizing improvement, but you're not forgetting to enjoy the process.
Right. And then it's that whole, once you, like if you set the goal and you're like, well, this is the point at which I'm going to finally be good enough. Well, what happens when you finally reach that goal and then you're like, and this is what I tend to do, like with work and different things. I'm like, okay, I want to be like amongst the best or, extremely capable at something. And then once I'm done with that, I'm like, okay, well, now there's not so much challenge and I don't necessarily just enjoy coasting. And I don't think beyond that initial goal, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
It's a good, go ahead.
There's a happy medium that I think I just need to try and understand or figure out a little bit better for myself.
Right. It's a good thought experiment to take yourself all the way through the best possible situation where you achieve the most that you think you can,
Yep.
and then think what next. And if there's some sort of bewilderment,
Yep.
then maybe it's time to reevaluate the goal.
Right.
I've thought of that with like writing and like, okay, if I publish this book and I sold this much and stuff, and I was 42 and I finally peaked, then what would I want to do?
Right.
And it sort of takes you to this weird place of like, man, it's probably not the most important thing. And I should probably enjoy things until I get there.
Right. It's just, it's a hard balance because I do really I enjoy working really hard and the satisfaction that comes from achieving things and then getting that, people recognizing your value and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But that can take the joy and just once you finally reach that goal, you've worked so hard to get there that then you're just like, okay, I burned myself out on this and now I'm done.
Right. Yeah, there's really something to finding the sustainable things and then building those habits in your life.
Yeah.
So, for me, I'm trying to keep really simple things that I like and try to do those things almost every day.
Yeah.
So I think running, I can do that almost every day. It's easier now that I live in Ecuador than Minnesota.
Right.
But running, reading, writing, if I just do a little bit of these things, things that are healthy.
Yep.
It's kind of proven that there's not really a lot of bad side effects, and you're doing
drinking beer, smoking a pipe. Yeah, I could do those every
day. Right. Yeah, alcohol is something to maybe be cautious of. You won't develop too bad of habits.
Yeah, right.
Yep, Dad drank a bottle of Jack Daniels every day. He was pretty consistent.
What an overachiever. Most people don't drink that much in a week.
But I also try to find the things where I lose consciousness of other things.
Yeah.
So sometimes when I'm reading a book, I get lost in it. When I play basketball, it's so interactive and it's so fully and takes all my energy that I forget about. When I was back in Morris working at Superior, and I think a lot of the guys who went to noon ball Monday, Wednesday, Friday and play basketball from noon to 1, it was such a good break mentally.
Yep.
That's what everyone would say. They'd be like, man, this really breaks up the day. And you couldn't think about your emails while you're trying to set a pick or hit a 3-pointer.
Yeah.
There's just not enough space in your head. And it's completely the antithesis of sitting at a desk. So that was really healthy.
See,
I think for a lot of people.
I think you need to write a guide to this for me, because I have this ridiculous notion in my head when I do things like that. I've been playing disc golf at lunch, which is super healthy for me in that, exactly what you're saying. You get out of the day to day, and then I'm just focusing on doing something that I enjoy, but also it takes I feel like I can improve on it, but it's just for personal enjoyment. Mm-hmm. But then afterwards I feel completely guilty because I'm well, I could have gotten more work done today, or I could have gone home and I don't know, taken the baby so that my wife didn't have to watch her for the entire day. And I have this ridiculous, maybe it's not ridiculous, but I have this hard time of knowing what's actually healthy, because when I do things like running, I love running, but I feel like if I took that half hour a day, that it's almost selfish of me to do that when I could be doing other things.
I think you have to fight that. I think that I definitely experienced that.
Yeah.
Like I would come back from noon ball and I was like, crap, I took an hour and a half lunch and now I'm eating a sandwich at my desk while I check my email. But there's also something so I know for me, I have to work out for my mental health.
Right.
That if I don't work out by the third day, I'm not in as good of a headspace.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm going for a run and I think I could be doing something to look for a job or to practice my Spanish, or like there's always other things you could be doing. But I also know that after my run and my shower, it's going to reset my brain
Right.
in a positive way, where I'm going to attack the next problem with a clear mind instead of a chubby mind.
Right. See, I think I've been like reading all of these. So like I just finished like the 4 disciplines of execution.
Okay.
And like all of these like strategic, productivity books.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I need to maybe do like next book I need to find is more of like a self-health, like making space and creating healthy habits like for your own personal, mental, and physical health outside of that. Because that's what I suck at. I can be super productive and I can be super hardworking, but then like I'm at that point right now where I've been at a really, really high level of productivity for like 3 months.
Yeah.
And now like I can't focus for half the day because I've been too productive, and so now even though I have things to do, I'm having a hard time even staying mentally motivated,
You're a little burned out.
Yeah. So, listeners, any books? I should call up Corey Schmidgall on this.
Yeah, dude, he's like an Instagram guru.
Yeah. That he is. But yeah, I think I need to try and maybe focus a little more on personal, like.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. Because
it's not easy.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe it's also partially, I was kind of talking about it in the blog, and this will be me getting a little overly vulnerable and real on the podcast for the day, but.
Dang millennials sharing their feelings on the interwebs.
Right. But like, with everything that happened with Hosanna and the church that I was in, followed by, one of my closest friends taking her own life, and then jumping right into being a father and like all this stuff all at once. Like,
it's a lot of transition.
I don't think that I'm mentally super healthy, and that in some ways I'm almost a little afraid of if I made time and space for me to like look at my life and start thinking and processing through things, that I might, like, I don't know how I would actually truly handle all that.
Yeah.
And like,
yeah, what if you, so if busyness or productivity is a coping mechanism for you.
Right. Which it totally is.
And it doesn't even mean that's a better coping mechanism than a lot. Like, people need to cope with trauma.
Right.
So there's better and worse ways to do it. But yeah, you can definitely be putting off a true feeling of pain or true processing of it, which can also delay, healing. I'm guessing. I'm not a psychologist or anything.
Right. Yeah. Maybe I should call up a psychologist. Yeah.
No, I think that's good. One thing, I mean, speaking of like imbalances, and mentioning Corey Schmigel as a guru, I sometimes have that tendency to look like for a guru, I think, for somebody with the answers.
Right.
And so I was thinking about this earlier today, and then going back to that reading list where I read all those theology books.
Yep.
In some senses, there was some unhealthiness to it because I was looking for one person that had it right, that I could just say, this is how it is.
Right.
This is God. This is the meaning of life. This is the meaning of Scripture.
Yeah.
This is it. And this is right, and they cracked the code. And I eventually got disillusioned because I read so many, and different people had different angles, and some of them contradicted. And I was like, well, who can I trust?
Right.
And I think that was like a flaw of looking for another man that had cracked the code that I could sign up for.
Right.
And which will leave you disillusioned at some point if you fully grasp on, because no matter how amazing of a person that you follow, everyone is human and will eventually let you down in some way.
Yeah.
Or if they don't let you down, they'll probably lead you astray because you'll
see it. And that's
faults.
what I think. I mean, maybe you and I are both in some ways in a healthier spot on that. Of like not so much being focused on trying to find someone who has the answers. But then I almost come to a arrogant side too of like, well, I mean, I'm pretty sure of what I think and believe, and so I guess like that's good enough. And there's also a piece of trying to like get different perspectives on things too to keep growing. But that's where this podcast and like I think you've been one of the most influential people for me in just making me have to like step back and appreciate other perspectives, even if I don't agree with them, because it's so easy to like say, well, I mean, I already understand this and I know where I stand on it. And then you're just super ignorant and arrogant when you have conversations with people, because you're like, yeah, I already know this because I have 23 years of life experience and I went through one thing, or I had a friend that I knew that was gay or whatever it is, right? And you're like, so I already know what I need to know on that. And so
right, I got it on lock.
Right. And then
it's easy. It's so much easier to do that though.
Right.
Man. And
but it's super like I find it so much more like gratifying to actually be able to have a conversation with someone I don't agree with, and at the end of it be like, wow, I understand something different, and I feel like I honored that person, and I hope they feel like I honored them, and like I feel like they heard me, and at the end of the day we both still appreciate each other even though we didn't have to agree, and I didn't have to prove that I was right, or I'm not like going to bed hoping like, well, I really hope that thing I said, like that they finally realized that I'm right, which I totally did that through until I was 21, 22 even. Just like every interaction with someone that was contrary to what I thought, the whole goal was to make sure that they knew that I was right.
Yeah. It can definitely, the process of that can definitely be fun or engaging, but it's also, if you take a step back, it's kind of lonely.
Right.
Like if you're sitting there on your couch or in your house, or after you posted a comment on Facebook or you talk to somebody and you're just like, I hope they finally realize how dumb they are. Like, even if you don't say that, like that's kind of your vibe, that's your mood. Yeah, it's kind of.
Yeah, and if you only surround yourself with people who agree with you, you're never going to grow, because all you're getting is like, you're getting the rah, yeah, you're right on. And you're never getting the, hey, but you got to step back and think about things, right? Like just the challenges of whether it's how you interact with people or whether you're actually wrong. Like, you should be surrounding yourself with people that in every interaction could tell you, like, hey, you could have done that better, or yeah, you probably are wrong. And at least those people are going to be helping you to continue to like learn and grow through every experience and conversation, instead of just, hey, yeah, you're awesome, you're always right on. Because guess what? Nobody ever is always right on, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And with the guru thing, I've noticed that desire for like me used to be doing blah 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 blah, doing that with preachers.
Yep.
There's been moments, so like after I was hardcore into the theology, I've been like hardcore into like marketing, thought leadership, and communications and all this stuff.
Yep.
And I've sort of noticed in myself looking for someone with all the right answers in that.
Yeah.
And the frustration of, okay, I'm reading this book by this professor and this book by the CEO of an agency and listening to this podcast of people who run this, consulting business. And they have differing viewpoint. And for some reason, there's this like desire in me to go like, well, you're right and you're wrong, and I've got to listen to you on this thing and not you on that thing, or, and then like realizing that's just kind of like, it's dumb. Like anything, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is in me that wants the complete clean package.
Right. I mean, I think that's everyone, right? Like, basically everyone is searching for what is like the true meaning and what is right and what is good, like no matter whether you're Christian or whatever, that's the underlying thing that's driving you, I think. So I think everyone is always, I mean, we're all looking for that person that's going to come in and have it all right. And you're going to hear them talk or hear them, read a book, and you're going to resonate with all of it and be like, wow, they've got the answers, and it's clean and it's clear and it's right on. And I mean, part of that probably is just like, it's probably a lazy perspective, right? Of it's really hard to actually be like continually searching and learning and growing and having experiences where you try and you fail. And then instead of just taking it as failure, stepping back and looking at that and seeing what you can learn from the failure, and then trying again and failing and then trying again. Like, it's super exhausting. And so it's like, I mean, I think everyone probably has that desire of, can somebody just go out, figure it out for me, and tell me? I mean, I think that's why you have so many people who just come to church every single Sunday.
Yeah.
And, they just show up, kind of punch the clock and listen and leave. And I think in some ways they tell themselves like, yeah, this person has it. I'm just going to hear what they have to say. Not going to really have to question it because it's clear cut. And then I don't have to necessarily think or struggle with it myself.
Do you think there is, so to play devil's advocate there?
Yeah.
Do you think there's any utility in that perspective? So
I think, so the hard balance there is, I tend to fall on the other side, which tends to come off a little bit like I have a authority problem, right? Where I'm listening and I'm like, yep, that's good. But I'm also really quick to be like, yeah, that wasn't right. And it's okay that it wasn't right, but I completely don't agree, and I'm okay with saying that.
Right. So I think it's good. I am a big proponent of critical thinking and free speech
Yeah.
and the meritocracy of ideas and all of that. And I think it is a better way to live your life where you can re-examine what you believe from time to time and have the humility to change.
Yep.
All those things, that's what I think is good.
Yep.
But is there, there's obviously benefits to just signing up for something and saying, I'm going with this, and I'm not really gonna, like, there's gotta be benefits, right? Sometimes that can,
I don't know.
I think in some instances it brings great community and it brings a cohesiveness
Yeah.
to look at cults.
See,
Look
but
at cults.
can't you?
People have good experiences in cults.
No. Oh man.
Well, not by the end. Okay, so cults are screwed up, but I'm just saying it's more nuanced than it's all bad. If you're in a cult, there's definitely some benefits.
Maybe
I know that sounds weird.
Maybe like short-term victories, but it's not right. It's like you might get peace from sitting back on the cruise ship and just like letting that ship go wherever you want it to go, not asking questions and just enjoying the ride. But at some point, you're going to start to be like, well, what should I do with my life? And
I think,
I don't know. Yeah.
Long term, it's a bad strategy to join a cult. And it's my goal to not join a cult.
We're not condone or what's
that is one of my life goals, to not join a cult.
Right.
And I'm not sure, I might have joined one previously in my life, but somewhere along the point. But
I was gonna say I might have kind of been a part of one loosely, but
but I think that I like to watch cult documentaries, and there's some things in them that I can relate to. And some of it is like there's usually at some sort of introductory period of hearing some new teaching or being involved in some spiritual experience corporately.
Yeah.
There's a lot of peace and bliss and excitement.
Right.
So I'm just saying, like, I've had a lot of spiritual experiences in my life.
Yeah.
And I think I've had them in settings that were not necessarily healthy or that would grow to not be healthy.
Yep.
So there's the nuance of looking back and going, oh, maybe I shouldn't have trusted those people.
Yeah.
And also the nuance of being like, wow, I've never felt so much love in my heart than when I was in that setting, experiencing those feelings.
Yeah.
And that sense of community.
Right.
So life is confusing like that. And I think, like you were talking about earlier, you have to have the discernment to say, this is good, this is bad.
Right.
And then, is the good more good than the bad, so I'll stay? Or is the bad more good or more powerful than the good?
Yeah.
So that's obvious. Like, I'm all for that. And I'm really not a proponent of cults. And for people listening, they're like, I mean, I don't even go to church anymore. So I'm not like, yeah, you should still, like, I'm,
Right. Yeah, don't join a cult.
I'm more backslid than most people. So, it's not like I'm sitting here saying stay in bad situations.
Right. Yeah.
But at the same time, like I watched this documentary, I think I mentioned it last time, Wild Wild Country, which is pretty intense, and there's some graphic elements.
Yeah.
But they built like this whole city, this whole town. It's like, even if it's a crazy idea, if you have enough people believe in something with enough talent, you can really do some amazing things. Even if it's, to follow some Indian guru who's a con artist.
Right. Yeah. More on cults on the next episode. I'm getting the text that I need to wrap it up, so.
Okay. One last thing on cults.
Yes.
There's an element where sometimes I feel like the anti-cult position is highly secular and empirical, which there's some really good things to it, but there's also, I don't know, I wouldn't go full board with the atheists or the secularists saying that this is, because you can get into meaningless really quick. If I'm not saying like complete spirituality and joining some
Right.
ultra crazy spiritual fringe group is the way to go, but I don't think the meaninglessness, God is dead is exactly where you're going to find fulfillment either, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Maybe cults should be our subtopic next time. We could actually be a little more informed. Because I would like to define what a cult truly is to be able to have a better true. Because I can only think of all the negative elements and manipulation of a cult. So I can't at all say that it's good. But it would be interesting to actually read the definition and what that actually is.
Yeah, we'd probably have to we could do that next time, but
yeah.
I'm sure there's multiple definitions from a variety of organizations.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
But there's cult watch organizations, so I mean you should go look at those.
Yeah.
Then whole programs for getting people.
Jeez. Yeah. All right, dude. It's been good. I think we found some gold there at the end, so.
Yeah. Talk to you later, Dave.
Bye, Dan.
Bye.